Hello, Junko, Ayumi, and Emi. I'm going to be reading Learn to Lighten Up and Live Longer. Here we go. I'm going to be reading at normal speed. If this takes more than 10 minutes, I may have to make another video. Okay, Learn to Lighten Up and Live Longer by Nancy Helmick, USA Today. If you often feel angry and overwhelmed, like the stress in your life is spinning out of control, then you may be hurting your heart. And if you don't want to break your own heart, you need to learn to take charge of the areas of your life you can and recognize that there are many things beyond your control. So says Dr. Robert S. Elliott, author of a new book, From Stress to Strength, How to Lighten Your Load and Save Your Life. Bantam Books, $22.95. He's director of the Institute of Stress Medicine in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and clinical professor of medicine at the University of Nebraska. Elliott says there are people in this world whom he calls hot reactors. For these people, I should read that again. Elliott says there are people in this world whom he calls hot reactors. For these people, stress may cause dramatic and rapid increases in their blood pressure. Your brain writes prescriptions for your body, says Elliott. There are people who write prescriptions like they are fighting saber-toothed tigers 20 or 30 times a day. They are hot reactors. Those people are walking time bombs because they can look cool as a cucumber on the surface and are as hot as chili peppers underneath. Hostile people activate their fight or flight response more intensely and more frequently during the course of everyday life than other people do, says stress expert Dr. Redford Williams, Duke University Medical Center, Durham, North Carolina. They respond to petty annoyances like supermarket lines, traffic jams, and children who don't clean up their rooms as though it were a threat to life. They respond to petty annoyances like supermarket lines, traffic jams, and children who don't clean up their rooms as though it were a threat to life and limb, says Williams, co-author of Anger Kills, 17 Strategies for Controlling the Hostility That Can Harm Your Health. Times Books, Random House, $22. Williams' studies and others show that hostility is bad for health. In patients who have heart disease, the emotion of anger can cause the heart function to deteriorate. Elliott says researchers have found that stressed people have higher cholesterol levels, among other things. We've done years of work in showing that excess alarm or stress chemicals like adrenaline can literally rupture heart muscle fibers. When that happens, it happens very quickly, within 5 minutes. It creates many short circuits, and that causes crazy heart rhythm. It beats like a bag of worms instead of a pump. And when that happens, we can't live. Elliott, 64, suffered a heart attack at age 44. He attributes some of the cause to stress. For years, he was a hot reactor. On the outside, he was cool, calm, and collected, but on the inside, stress was killing him. He's now doing very well. The main predictors of destructive levels of stress are the FUD factors: fear, uncertainty, and doubt, together with perceived lack of control, he says. For many people, the root of their stress is anger, and the trick is to find out where the anger is coming from. Does the anger come from a feeling that everything must be perfect? Elliott asks. That's very common in professional women. They feel they have to be all things to all people and do it all perfectly, they think. They think, I should, I must, I have to. Good enough is never good enough. Perfectionists cannot delegate. They get angry that they have to carry it all, and they blow their tops. Then they feel guilty, and they reset the whole cycle. People who are unassertive or people pleasers also often get angry. They say yes all the time, and when they really want to say no, all of a sudden they get mad and they resent the system. Others are angry because they have no compass in life, and they give the same emphasis to a traffic jam that they give to a family argument, he says. If you own anger for more than 5 minutes, if you stew in your own juices with no safety valve, You have to find out where it's coming from. What happens is that the hotter people get physiologically with mental stress, the more likely they are to blow apart with some cardiovascular problem. One step to calming down is recognizing you have this tendency, William says. Learn to be less hostile by changing some of your attitudes and negative thinking. Eliot recommends taking charge of your life. If there is one word that should be substituted for stress, it's control. Instead of the FUD factors, what you want is the nice factors. New, interesting, challenging experiences. You have to decide what parts of your life you can control, he says. Stop where you are on your trail and say, I'm going to get my compass out and find out what I need to do. He suggests that people write down the 6 things in their life that they feel are the most important things they'd like to achieve. Ben Franklin did it at age 32. He wrote down things like a better father, being a better husband, being financially independent, being stimulated intellectually, and remaining temperate. He wasn't good at that. Eliot says you can first make a list of 12 things, then cut it down to 6, and set your priorities. Don't give yourself impossible things, but things that will affect your identity, control, and self-esteem. Put them on a note card and take it with you, and look at it when you need to. Since we can't create a 26-hour day, we have to decide what things we are going to do. Keep in mind that over time, these priorities are going to change. The kids grow up, the dog dies, and you change your priorities. If you're having a hard time setting priorities, imagine yourself as 65 or 70 years old and looking back and say to yourself, what would I really feel good about? Eliot says the other key to controlling stress is to realize that there are other parts of your life over which you can have little or no control, like the economy and politicians. You have to realize that sometimes with things like traffic jams, deadlines, and unpleasant bosses, you can't fight. You can't flee. You have to learn how to flow. The end.